All right, the way you make a mixed number into a decimal, what you're gonna do is first thing, you're gonna make this mixed number into an improper fraction. Basically, you're gonna go around the mixed number following my arrows, and you're gonna take the denominator of the fraction, you're gonna multiply by the big number, the whole number, and whatever answer you get, you add the top number, the numerator. So 4 times 3, 12. 12 plus 3, that will give me 15. And I keep the denominator. And then to make a fraction to a decimal, the only thing you have to do is divide the top of the fraction divided by the bottom of the fraction. And for that, you're going to use your calculator. So I'm going to use decimals. And I'm going to do 15 divided by 4. You can see the way decimals write the calculators like a fraction. And you can see I got 3.75. So that will be my decimal for the mixed number 3 and 3/4. Now they're asking me to take this same number, the 3 and 3/4, and make it to a percent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my decimal answer, 3.75, and I'm going to multiply the decimal by 100. Okay, the word percent means times 100. That's how you make decimals to percents. And when you do that, you can do it in the calculator if you want. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take my decimal and I'm going to multiply by 100. And you can see I got 375. However, when you write your answer, make sure you put the percent sign. So 375%. I changed the numbers. Okay, so I'm giving you a similar problem so you can try this one on your own. Let's go to the next problem. So in question number 2, they gave you a fraction. Again, I'm using a similar problem. I'm doing a similar problem. The way you make fractions and the way you convert fractions to decimal, basically what you have to do is divide. A fraction is a division problem. You always divide the top number, the numerator, divided by the denominator, the bottom number. Now, when you do the computation, make sure you use the decimals calculator. That's what I'm going to do here. Where's my decimal? There's my decimal. Okay. And I'm going to do 27 divided by 20. And you can see I got 1.35. And that will be the decimal conversion of the fraction 27 over 20. Now they want me to take this answer, the same fraction, 27 over 20, but I'm going to use the decimal answer. I'm going to take the 1.35, and the problem wants me to make it to a percent. And how do you make it to a percent? Percent means times 100 when you're working with decimal. So you're going to multiply by 100. And again, do it in the calculator. I'm going to press A and S. That means my answer, my previous answer. That's what it means. I'm going to multiply by 100. And you can see I got 135. Now remember, your answer is 135% because we're working with percentages. And that's why you put in here. Okay, let's go to the next question. Question number 3. In question number 3, what we're going to do is the same thing we have been doing. I want to convert fractions to decimals. The way you convert fractions to decimals, a fraction is a division problem. So you're dividing the top number, in this case 47. I'm going to divide it by the bottom number, that is 100. Always divide the top divided by the bottom. That's how you do it. Now, get your calculator. I'm going to use decimal. There it is. And I'm going to do the division. 47 divided by 100. And you can see that I got 0.47. Now the problem, the question number 3, is also asking me to write the fraction as a percent. So what I do is I take the decimal answer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that by 100. Every time you want to make a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100 because percent means per hundreds. Okay, so I'm going to take my answer in my calculator, the 0.47. I'm going to go to a new line. I'm going to click the ANS key. It's going to show me my previous answer, and I'm going to multiply that decimal by 100. And you can see that I got 47%. Okay, when you write your answer, make sure you put the percent sign. And that's how you do problem number 3. Let's go number 4. All right, and question number 4, they gave us a repeating decimal. This looks like a bar. It doesn't look like a straight line. It should be like a bar. This bar here, this line, is called the repetant bar. And basically what that means is that this is a repeating decimal. Okay, so this is the same thing as saying 0.666, etc. You're repeating the 6 multiple, you're repeating the 6 forever. Okay, that's what that means. Now, how do you make a repeating decimal to a fraction? I'm going to give you a nice trick. Every time you're working with repeating decimals, you're going to see the bar, okay? What you're going to do is this. You're going to write a fraction bar. Here's the fraction bar. And you're going to count how many digits are under the bar. And right now I only have one digit, the 6. I only have one digit. That means that your denominator is going to be 9. When you're working with repeating decimals, your denominators are 9s. Okay? When you do not have the repeating decimal, you don't have the bar, then you're working with tens, hundreds, thousands. Okay? But when you're working with repeating decimals, your denominator are going to be 9s. How many 9s you're going to write depends on how many digits are under the bar. So since I only have one digit, 6, I'm going to put 1 9 on the bottom. And who is the number under the bar? 6. That's what I put on the top. 6/9. And you can see I made it into a fraction. Now, it's always good to simplify your answers if it's possible. So I'm going to show you another nice trick. Okay? Look at the calculator, decimals. Type the fraction. Here's the fraction key. You're going to put 6/9. And you can see that the calculator shows you a lot of 6s. Now, don't be fooled. This 7 is there because the calculator did some rounding, but that 7 doesn't exist. That's supposed to be 6s repeating forever. However, can you see there's a circle on the right side here? Look what it says. To take this decimal, make it to a fraction. Click the circle, and look what will be your final answer. 2/3. And that's how you convert a repeating decimal to a fraction. They also ask you to take the repeating decimal, okay, the 0.6 with the bar on top of the 6. They want you to make it to a percent. Okay? Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to expand the 0.6 with the bar like I did on the top. I'm going to write it like this. 0.6666. I'm going to write like 4 or 5 6s. And then I put the 3 dots. And how do you convert decimals to percents? What you're going to do is you're going to multiply by 100. Remember, the word percent means times 100. Now, if you do that in this calculator, which I'm going to do right here, I'm going to go to the next line. Okay, I'm going to put my answer that you can see is 2/3, which as a decimal is 0.6666. Repeating, again, don't be fooled by the 7. The calculator did a rounding. It's not really a 7. It should be 6s. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to multiply that by 100. And when you multiply, look what you got. You got, I'm going to put the answer down here. You got 66.666, and this is repeating. Okay, this section, the 6s here, they're repeating. Now, from the previous answer, the one I got on the top, okay, we know that this here, what I highlighted in yellow, is the same as 2/3. So I'm going to put 2/3 here. And then the 66, that is before the decimal point, I'm going to put it right before the fraction. And then I'm going to put the percent symbol. And that's how you answer question number 4. Let's go 5. All right, here's the next question. They gave us a repeating decimal, but careful. The bar, again, I'm doing a similar problem. Here it looks like a little arc, but in reality it's a bar, okay? The bar is only on top of the 3. It's not on top of the 8. So you have to be careful when you have these type of decimals that are repeating, but the bar is not completely over all the digits on the decimal side. So here's what you're gonna do, okay? We're gonna do a little metric, okay? I wanna move the decimal point to the right, okay? And if I move it to the right, it means that I multiply by 10. Okay, moving the decimal point to the right, it means I multiply by 10. Keep that in mind because I'm going to have to undo the multiplication by 10 because there was no times 10 in the problem. Okay, but just keep in mind, the reason I moved the decimal point to the right one time is because I multiplied by 10. When you do that, you get 58.3 repeating. Okay, so you're going to have the bar like this. All right. Now remember, what does the bar means? That I'm repeating whatever's under the bar, I'm repeating it forever. So this means 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, etc. Okay? Now, remember what I said. To make a repeating decimal to a fraction, you're going to count how many digits are under the bar. And I only have one digit, the 3. So I'm going to put a 9. See, I'm going to put 9. All right? Because when you're working with repeating decimals, your denominators are going to be 9s. This is a trick. I don't want to explain the whole reason why, because it involves a little bit of algebra, and I don't want to use algebra yet. Okay? Later on, I will. But right now, I want to show you with the trick of the 9s. Every time you have repeating decimals, you're working with 9s in the denominator. Since I only have one number under the bar, that's why I'm using 9 on the bottom. And what number is under the bar? 3. Okay? And now the 58, I'm going to put it in front of that fraction. Okay? Now, if you take this this fraction, 3 over 9, and you put it in the calculator in decimals, which I suggest you do. So look, I'm going to click the fraction, bar 3 over 9, okay? And look what I got. I got 0.333, but if you click the circle, you're going to see what fraction it will be. This is the same thing as 58 and 1/3. However, my final answer is not going to be 58 and 1/3 because the original number was not 58.3 repeating. It was 5.83 repeating. And the reason I moved the decimal point one time to the left, to the right, sorry, is because I multiplied by 10. So I need to go backwards. If I multiply by 10, I need to do the opposite action. So what I'm going to do is to put back the decimal point where it was, I'm going to divide this by 10. Okay? And look, I'm going to do it in the calculator. I'm going to show you how. That 58 that was in front of the 3 over 9, now it's 58 and 1/3. So what I'm going to do in my new line here, I'm going to type the answer that I got before, the 1/3, but in front of it, in fact, I don't want to do that. I want to do, let me clear this. I'm going to type 58, and then I put the fraction key, 1 over 3, because that's what I got here. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide all of this. I'm going to divide it by 10. Okay? And when I do that and I click on the circle, you're going to see what fraction I get. I get the same thing as 35 over 6. And that will be my fraction. Okay? Now I'm going to take the decimal, 5.83 repeating, and I'm going to write that as a percent. So let me write the number back, 5.83 repeating. And how do you make a repeating decimal to a percent? You just multiply by 100. Now remember that the 3 under the bar means the 3 is repeating. Okay? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the 3. I'm going to write like 5 times, 3, 4, 5. Then I put the 3 dots. And then I'm going to multiply by 100. So I'm going to do that right here. Okay? I'm going to write 0. I'm sorry, not 0. I don't know where I got that 0. I'm going to write 5.83333 and a bunch of threes. Okay? And I'm going to multiply that by 100. I put 10 here, but it should be 100. So times 100. And look what I get. I get 583.3333, and that's repeating forever. However, this section here, 0.33333, repeating forever, it's the same thing as I got up here, which is the same thing as 1/3. So all of this here is the same thing as what we got before, 1/3. And then I can write the whole number, 583 in front. And then because I made this to a percent, I'm going to put the percent sign. And that's the answer for problem number 5. That's how you do it when you're working with repeating decimal. Let's go number 6. And problem number 6, again, I'm doing similar exercises. You work it out the same way. All right? Let's say they give us 0.24. How do you convert a decimal to a percent? To convert a decimal to a percent, like I've been saying many times before, the word percent means times 100. Okay? So basically, I'm going to take this decimal and I'm going to multiply by 100. Using your decimals calculator, you can do it mentally if you want to, but I'm going to use decimal. Okay? Let me clear all of this. So I'm going to type 0.24 and I'm going to multiply by 100. Look what I got, 24, but my answer is 24%. Okay, that's what that really means. When you multiply by 100, you make it into a percent. So you're using the percent symbol. All right. Now, the second part, they're asking you to change the percent to fractions. Now, how do you do that? You're going to take your answer here, that was 24%. Okay. And I'm going to write it here, 24%. And the way you make a percent to a fraction, this percent symbol, the percent symbol, really means that you have a fraction over 100. I don't know if you have noticed that the percent symbol has like a diagonal line and 2 little circles. Those two, that diagonal line and those 2 little circles is really 100, a 1 followed by 2 zeros. And then the number that is before the percent sign, that's what you put on the top of the fraction. See? And then using your calculator, we're going to simplify that fraction. You're going to click the fraction key. You're going to put 24 over 100. And then I know you get the decimal that we started. But if you click on the circle, see that it says convert to a fraction. Look what you got, a simplified answer, 6 over 25. Okay? So that's how you do problem number 6. Problem number 7, again, I'm doing a similar one. Okay, they gave you a percentage and they want you to make it to a decimal and a fraction. Here's what I do. Okay, I'm going to start making the percent into a fraction first. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Remember the percent sign, that percent sign. It means you have a fraction over 100. The percent symbol looks like 100. They just move the 2 circles on each side of the 1 and they make the 1 diagonal. Okay? And the number before the percent sign goes on the top, 341. Okay? Now, you're going to take your decimals calculator and you want to check if you can simplify your answer. How? Just type the fraction in the calculator. Click the fraction key. Type 341 over 100. And you can see you got 3.41. But since you want your answer as a fraction, just click on the circle to convert that decimal to a fraction. And you can see that you got the same fraction you got before. Okay? So the final answer for this one will be 341 over 100. That's the final answer as a fraction. Now, how do you make a 341 into 341% to a decimal? You're going to take your answer that you got in the second part here, the 341 over 100, okay? And so you're gonna take your fraction answer. And remember that a fraction is a division problem. Okay, so basically, if I go to the new line, I'm gonna do 341 divided by 100. And look what decimal you got, 3.41. And look how quickly you did that. And that's how you do problem number 7. Let's go number 8. Again, in problem number 8, I'm doing a similar one, not exactly the same, but very similar. So instead of 32%, I'm going to use 56%. Remember the symbol percent, the percent symbol, okay? This really means you have a fraction over 100. And the number that is together with a percent symbol, you're going to put it on the top of the fraction bar. And then you're going to use your decimals calculator, which I strongly suggest you do. Okay. And what you're going to do now is you're going to type that fraction in the calculator, click the fraction key, 56 over 100. You're going to get a decimal. Okay. Which, by the way, that decimal is the answer of how do you make 56% to a decimal. So the top answer here is going to be 0.56. And then the only thing I want to do is I want to check if my fraction answer I can simplify. And the way you do that is just click on the circle here. See that says convert to fraction. So click on it and look what I got. What you got? 14 over 25. And that's how you do number 8. I hope this helps.